Hi guys, and welcome back to the Dev Realm. And today we're going to be carrying on our awesome series. And what we did in the last episode is that we start to set up the player information, the settings. Now I would like to pass the settings into the widget, so we got the cards and everything being set properly. So let's do that. To do this is quite simple. The first thing we're going to need to do here is close everything, and let's start from scratch. So let's open up here our TCG I think it's controller. Yes. Now, TCG controller, which is fine. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open up our widget, right? And on the widget itself, I'm going to go back to graph. And in here, I would like to pass the reference to... Is that the reference or not? Actually, what I would like to pass here is the reference to my component. So this is going to be the TCG component, all right? And now we're going to change this. We're going to search for TCG component, object reference, make sure it's public, and you expose that on spawn, all right? Now we're going to compile and save. We're going to go back here and we're going to refresh those nodes. All right. Now, of course, what I would like to do here right now is that I want to go to my TCG component. So TCG component, which I have attached right here. I'm just going to add it. Now here, I'm just going to do something simple. So first of all, I'm going to pass here the player controller or controller. All right. Now, I'm not sure. Controller, AI controller. Now, let me just have a look. What does the controller, player controller, extends for? So the parent controller. And what does the parent controller extends from? It should tell me here, declare a player controller. I think it just extends from the controller or something. Anyway, so what we can do here, don't worry, we're not gonna add any code. I just need to know where does it come from, because I would like to make it dynamic, right? So on the player here, I'm going to search for controller, and that's going to be object reference, and that's going to be compile and save, right? And then we're going to be talking with the controller using what we call interface, but we can do that later on. So now on the player controller reference here, all we got to do is that on the begin play, I want to get this. And I want to set maybe controller. And can I pass self? No. I want to pass self. Yes. That worked, which is good. So instead of doing that, what I am going to do here is that on the main TCG, also, can I do that? Can I use this show? That may be an issue, but we can figure out that in a sec. So what I'm going to do here on the component, I'm going to create here a custom event called API start widget, right? The widget will need a controller. So this is going to be a player controller and a controller. Nice. Now, what I'm going to do here, guys, is that I need to know if this is a player controller or if it's just a normal controller, like a AI controller, right? Because I need to be able to understand what it is. So what I'm going to do here is that I am going to basically create a variable called is player controller, right? Like, do I need to do this? I probably don't need to do that. You know what? Like, I'm not entirely sure how this should work properly. So I'm just going to pass the controller for now. And I am just going to change this name to call controller. Okay. Sorry, the name here is going to be game controller. That's it. Now, what happened with the game controller is that we need to add, let's say, the widget to that user, right? So what happened is that now we just need to copy this logic here, copy that, compile and save, go back to this component, paste it. Now it's going to complain that I can't show that cursor, but that's fine. Everything has been added there, which is perfect. Now it's going to ask for the reference of why do I need the player controller here again? So now on the TCG, I don't think I need this. So if I find references by name, oh, I see. Okay, we will need to refactor a couple of things here in order to make this works properly. So for example, this API move card to the position animated, this will need to be played as part of the TCG component, but that's okay. We can make it a little bit more clever. So first of all, I got my controller and I am going to pass self, right? I'm going to pass my self reference to this. Now, this is going to break a couple of things, but that's what we are here for, to, implement this better. Now, on the controller, in the event begin play, we're going to call the API start widget. And now we are passing self as a reference. Okay, now this works fine, but it's still going to break my, it's not going to work here. It doesn't have the reference to that we need the API move card position animated. Now, what I would like to do here is that I am going to go back here to my component here, and I would like to see, I'm going to copy this logic here, copy that. Actually, I'm going to just copy, Control X, C. I'm going to go back to the BCP components. I'm going to create here a graph, and I'm going to call this UI stuff. I'm just going to call UI stuff for now, right? Compile and save. Everything looks good. Now, what I can do here on the main API thing is that I can use now the component instead of the player class to call this, right? And in here, I need to pass the canvas, the position, and that, this X position, and put it right here. Nice. Now, I don't think I need anymore the player controller, so I can just plug it right here. Now, if I compile and save that, let's just have a look if we are using this anywhere else. Find by reference. Right now is looking for, I just want to find by name, and I don't use it here. Now let's see if it still works. Still works, no problem, which is good. Still runs on the client, which is exactly what we want. And now we can drop the usage of the player controller. It's great. Now this is everything we wanted, because look how cool is this thing right now. So now what we can do here is that we can now open up the place where we add a card, right? We added the card here. And what I can do here to the card is, let me just open up the card function properly. So we're going to open up the card, and what is it? The card legacy. Now I'm going to open up the parent, because I need the parent to be usable. And remember, guys, we want to set this width and height here automatic, but we do not have the settings information. So now you probably wonder, how can we get the settings information? So there's a couple of ways we can actually do this. And I think the best way for us to do it is that go to the graph of the card itself. Okay. the card itself, and we're gonna add a new variable, and we're gonna call this main widget ref. The reason why I'm calling this the main widget ref, it's because I am not only having access to the component, but I have access to the widget. So maybe in the future I can do something with that. So I'm just preparing myself for the future. So I'm gonna search for main TCG widget reference. Make sure you mark expose on spawn and you compile and save that. That's fine. Make sure it's public, otherwise it will complain. Now, on the main TCG widget here, we can refresh and we can pass self. All right, pass a reference to himself. Now, look what we can do. We can go back to the card, and now we open up the legacy, right? Because remember, unfortunately, I have to go one by one to do this, but that's fine. We're gonna open up here the load card style. Now what I can do is that I can get the widget ref, right? I can get the component and I can break it, and I can get the settings, right? And I can break this stuff. Now, for example, what we can do here is a print, and we can get the card height. Now if I press play, look at that, 300. Now I would like to set this size here. So what I can do is that I can get my size box, make sure it's a variable, card size, all right? Go back right here, get the card size, and we can set the width and set the height. Set width and set width and set height, I think. Height override. There we go. So what I can do here, I'm just gonna be very dumb, but I'm gonna just show you how powerful this thing is. We can do, like, let's say 122 by, a value that breaks everything. Look at that. It looks all fucked up now, but it looks good. That's the point. The point is that we have a card. Okay. Now, you're probably asking, but how do I fix this now? And it's just the case to connect. Let me just put the settings here. Now, it's just the case to put the width and the height, right? Now, this gives us so much flexibility. Like if I go back and press play now, like press play, look at that. Like you see, it's back to normal. Now what I can do here is I can go back. I'm like, okay, you know what? This size is not really working out. So let's just do 200 by 300, right? Now let's press play. See, card smaller. Of course, guys, that you will need to adjust this. You will need to make sure the card resize properly, whatever. But this is now a very cool feature that we have that's automatic adjusting the size for us. I prefer this size. It's a bigger card, but it looks, you understand what's happening. One thing I forgot to do here as well, that's quite important, is that I think it's set show cursor, right? Just make sure that's true when you call this, and that's it. Press play. There you go. So you can see the mouse here. All right. Now we have this information. So we can add new cards, and everything keeps adding, which is great. I think I broke it. But anyway. So what I would like to do now, guys, is I want to make sure that we also pass the height. And remember, the height is passed on the card organize. We pass the height right here. So instead of, the bottom margin, card height. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to get my component. I'm going to get the settings. And I'm going to break this stuff. And all I have to do is hold control and put on the height. Hold control, put on the bottom. And we do not need to pass any more parameters because this is coming from the settings. So it's coming from one place. You don't need to worry about this not being set properly. Now you can check how powerful this thing is, because you can go back here to the settings and you can mess around with the height. So you can put like 100 and the card's gonna look like weird, like, or I mean, it doesn't look too bad, but you guys got the idea, you know. 25, it looks like all broken and stuff, but I'm just gonna leave it here 125. Right, now we can compile and save. Okay, so we have the screen, got the settings. Now we have to worry about loading also the player information. Now let's go back here a little bit to the component here. Let's compile and save that. Where is that? Okay, so I'm just gonna refresh this because it's complaining that. Now we have all these things done. So this start the widget for the player, right? Nice. Now we need to load the player information. So we need to basically populate the player info with the attributes. So what I'm going to do here is that on the player controller, I'm just going to make sure this replicates, and yeah, that's fine. Now on the player component itself, this needs to run on the client. Run on the client, must be reliable. So I think that's fine. So if I press play here as that works. So if I press play, let's say as a client, would that work? Yeah, I'm playing as a server. And if I press play here as a client, that should also take some time, but it should also work. You know, it does, because we're just using UI stuff. Now I'm just going to put standalone back. Now I'm going to create here a custom event. Custom event called API load player attributes, right? Load, or we're going to call this first load player attributes. Now all we're going to do is that we're going to get a player info. Also, actually, this needs to be run on, I think it needs to replicate. So first, it's going to run from the client. It's going to be dash client. And then what it's going to do here is going to call the API, sorry, custom event that's going to run on the server. And then from the server, it will call the multicast. Remember, multicast runs on both client and server. I'm not sure if I have to do all those layers. Multicast. So it'll be very nice for you guys, like if you leave a comment, if someone of you guys know, because I'm not sure if I have to do all those layers. But I had problems in the past where, you know, I was just doing based on the client first and then calling the server right away, and it was causing massive issues. So this is something that I started to do. Like if I want to run something on a multicast, I make sure I call the client first and then it replicates because this comes from the client anyway. Nice. So now player info, replication, I think we want to replicate as well, right? Also the settings we do not care, and we can replicate the player controller, which is good. Nice. So what we're gonna do is then we're gonna get a player information, and we're gonna break this into attributes, and we're gonna do here default attributes. So we're gonna do a for each loop. Okay. Now the for each loop here, we are gonna basically break, and we're gonna get role data table role. We do know the table, which is the player attribute. And now what we can do is that we can put this value right here, and if the value has been found, all we have to do, get a player info, break whatever, add a unique value, because I don't want to have duplicated attributes, and you just plug this attribute right there. Okay, Now that's everything we gotta do here. Do not need to do anything else, which is great, right? And all you gotta do here is that I would like to call this first hand here. So we call this, we first will load the attributes, right? I mean, you could add a delay if you want, but anyway, so load the player attributes, right? Or what you can do here, guys, better idea. So instead of doing that, what we can do here is that we can call this after, right? And we call after, which is fine, totally fine with this. And then what I'm going to create here is a custom event called, I mean, that it's going to be best on the UI stuff graph. So this is a card effect position. Now what we're going to do here is that we're going to create a custom event. I forgot. Another thing that I forgot. Sorry. We need to get a reference of the widget, right? Promote a variable called widget ref. Plug it, and we add it right here, and we do that. Great. It's gonna plug it right there. Great. Nice. So now we have this. We load that, loads the widget, but that thing's still not looking and refreshing properly. Okay, but I can tell you this is working because I can do a print, I can do a hello world, and look at that, hello 3 times, right? Which is fine. And you can even, guys, well, you can debug. You can press F9 here. So it's gonna loop. So you added a unique, and what you can do is that you can press in the player info, and you can see that we have a value called health. I don't think let me just go to the next. No. Execution. Like, can we see the default values? It used to let me see this, but anyway, it's fine. We have the value that we're looking for. What we can do here maybe is that we can print. We can get the player info. Yeah, copy, break, and the first one should be to string, right? Should be health, right? Should be saying health. It does work. I'm not sure why the debug doesn't display, but anyway, the point is now that we have the widget reference, we are going to go to the UI, and I'm going to create here a custom event called API reload widget. All right. So this is literally going to call that. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to call runs on the client. Remember, everything related to UI only runs on the client. It's very important to know. So we need to do that. So now on the main widget here, I am going to create here a custom function. So we add here, add a new card. Of course, it's the main thing. Those things can be deleted. So I'm just going to go back here and say, delete this stuff only for test, right? Because the component's going to do this. So we're going to create here a custom event called API reload widget. And the reload widget, all it's going to do here at the moment is get the component, break, or get this. And no, actually, what we need to do here is even simpler. We get this stuff, we're gonna add it to the blueprint, and we're gonna create here, you can delete all these things, custom event called API load reload attributes, right? And the load and reload attributes, I will create a variable called get the widget ref. So I pass the widget. So this is going to be using the main TCG widget, right? Because it's a class. You can expand if you want, but right now I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Now on the main TCG widget here, when we load, we are gonna get this information that we have. So it needs to be a variable, and get on the begin play. Let me just do this on the begin play here. So I'm just adding values here. So the begin play, we're gonna set widget reference to self. Okay, sorry, it needs to be self. So at this point, I don't need to worry about setting these things anymore. So we're passing this widget reference to that. Now when we call this reload, we just call API reload widget. No, sorry, that's the wrong one. We get this, and we call the API load reload attribute. That's all you have to do. Now this reload attributes counters, this is going to reload any counter that you will have for your game. So on the card here itself, I don't know why it's complaining. Oh yeah, refresh the node. Now here we just call this API reload widget, right? So reload the TCG widget information, right? Now what happened is that it comes right here, reload the attribute and other counters. Now we are delegating this to the player attribute counters, and now here we just have to get the widget reference, we get the component, and we're gonna basically get the player information, and we're gonna break this information here, and we're gonna do a for each loop, right? And basically I just want to show you how powerful this thing is. So you can actually do a print, and we can just break this information, and let's say to string, and we can display here the name, right? Now we can compile and save. Now we can go back. Look at that. So if I edit, oh yeah, sorry, of course I forgot a very important step, which is that when we load the attribute, we need to choose to load this, to call that function, right? So we're gonna call this API reload widget. All right, now let's press play. Look at that, defense, mana, and health. And also I think this should work for both client, yeah, and also should work for both the server and client. So client now should work, yes. It does repeat it twice, but it's because the client repeats to the server. So it's just how an engine works. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to this. So we are reloading that data. And now all you gotta do, very simple thing. We're gonna open up here our attributes. So this is gonna be, they need to be static. So it's gonna be first. I mean, do they need to be static? I guess they do, yeah. So this is gonna be called health counter. This is gonna be mana counter, and this is gonna be defense counter. All right. Now they're all gonna be a variable. So we can go back to here. And now we're gonna do a switch case, and that's where the enum part that I was talking about works really well, because now I can set the API reload attribute. So we can set the attribute. You know what? Let's do this properly, because what I can do, like I really don't wanna, I wanna make sure that we set this value as part of this. So I have only to call once, and that's it. Like otherwise it's gonna be pain in the ass to do all this stuff. So it's gonna basically put this value right here. So we got the mana counter, and we're gonna get the defense counter. Okay, same thing for all of them. Plug it here, plug it down here. So defense, and then mana and defense. Right, look at that, guys. So this is looking quite cool. Now I just need to plug this right there, right? You just need to tell what you want to update. And if we did everything right, which I think we did, we should see 15, 10, 0, and 0. So like you can come here, for example, now to the DT, right? Attributes. And let's say you can always give the player, let's say 2 points of health right away, right? And then we start as 2. And this concludes us this part of the widget. Now there's one thing here more that I just need to do, which is the player name. Okay, I know I'm aware that this got very long again, but let's just push it through and finish this, because I want to make sure that we have a nice like we can start the next series, so the next part of the series easier. So now I'm setting up the player name. Sorry, set text, set text, plug a D, player name, there, and voila, we got a player name. Player 1 has 15 points of health, and you know, at this moment, this UI does not look the best, but it's usable. It's simple, actually. It's usable and it's simple. I think that concludes us this part of the video. The next one that I would like to do here is that I want to add the ability to display how many cards you have here. I think that's going to be a nice one. We're also going to add a limit, how many cards you can have. And every time you add a new card, you add it back to the TCG, you know, like all that jazz we're going to do. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I see you in the next one.